The phone rang just as the boardroom erupted in applause. The deal had gone through. Another multi-million-dollar acquisition signed. Another empire expanded. For most people, that would have been the moment of triumph. But for Adrian Walker, it was supposed to be just another ordinary victory in a life filled with them. Yet that single ring, soft, trembling, and unexpected, was about to rewrite everything he thought he knew about success. He almost ignored it, the way he had ignored dozens of calls from home before. But something about that sound, the tiny voice on the other end, when he finally answered, would soon break through every layer of pride and distance he had built. "Daddy, it hurts. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Gracefulness Empathy. Your support helps us spread real stories that touch the heart." Adrian was a man in the city whispered about, sharp, relentless, unstoppable. The youngest self-made millionaire in the state, owner of a chain of luxury real estate companies, always impeccably dressed, always on the move. But what no one saw behind the glass walls of his skyscraper office was the growing silence in his home. After losing his wife, Clara, to cancer 3 years earlier, Adrian had thrown himself into work. He told himself it was for his daughter, his sweet little Maddie, just 6 years old, with her honey-blonde braids and soft giggle that used to fill the halls of their home. But as months turned into years, the space between them widened. Maddie stayed mostly with the nanny, while Adrian's days blurred into meetings, flights, and celebrations that never felt like victories. That afternoon, as he stood surrounded by handshakes and congratulations, his assistant handed him his buzzing phone. He frowned when he saw the name Maddie. She rarely called during work hours. He pressed accept, ready to tell her gently that he was busy. But the sound that came through wasn't her usual playful tone. It was panic, breathless, sobbing. "Daddy, it hurts." His heart jolted. "What hurts, sweetheart?" he asked. But the line went quiet, except for crying. In the background, he heard the crash of glass and a baby's wail. His infant son, Noah, barely a year old. Adrian's throat tightened. "Maddie?" he shouted into the phone, but the only response was a terrified, muffled whisper. "I dropped something and Noah's bleeding." The phone slipped from his hand. In a blur, Adrian ran from the meeting, leaving his briefcase and signatures behind. The 20-minute drive home felt endless. His thoughts spiraled. What could have happened? Why wasn't the nanny answering? What if... He shook his head, gripping the wheel until his knuckles turned white. The mansion loomed into view, its glass facade glittering in the afternoon sun. He burst through the door and froze. The kitchen was chaos. Plates shattered across the marble floor, food scattered, and glass shards glimmering under the harsh light. And there, in the center of it all, stood Maddie, her cheeks streaked with tears, clutching baby Noah to her chest with trembling arms. Her small dress was stained with drops of blood from the baby's tiny hand, wrapped clumsily in a kitchen towel. She held the phone still pressed against her ear, whispering, "Daddy, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." Adrian's legs gave out beneath him. He fell to his knees, the sound of broken porcelain crunching beneath him. He reached for his children, his heart pounding harder than it had in years. "It's okay, baby. It's okay," he murmured, his voice shaking. The wound was small, just a shallow cut from a piece of glass. But the sight of Noah's blood and Maddie's terrified face shattered something deep inside him as he held them close. The tears he hadn't shed since Clara's funeral poured down his cheeks. "Where's Grace?" he asked softly, meaning the nanny. Maddie hiccuped between sobs. "She went out. She said she'd be back soon." "I wanted to help Noah eat, but I dropped the bowl." Adrian's eyes flickered with rage, then guilt. He realized in that moment how long his children had been surviving on the love of strangers, while their father chased the illusion of providing for them. That night, after a rushed visit to the clinic and endless apologies, Adrian tucked Maddie into bed. She clung to his sleeve. "Daddy, are you staying home tomorrow?" she asked through sleepy eyes. He nodded, though he hadn't planned to, but something in her quiet hope pierced him. As he watched her drift off, He turned toward the window where the city lights shimmered, a skyline he once believed was the measure of his worth. Yet in that soft silence, he understood how empty it had all become. The next morning, he called his assistant and cancelled every meeting. Days turned into weeks, and Adrian began learning the small, tender rhythms he had forgotten. Morning cartoons instead of business news, crayon drawings taped to his office laptop, late-night bottle feedings. He burned pancakes, mixed baby formula wrong, and got paint all over his suit. But he was there. Slowly, Maddie began smiling again, her laughter returning like sunlight after a storm. Noah reached for him more often, babbling his first word, "Da!" And for the first time in years, Adrian felt alive. Still, the guilt haunted him. One evening, he sat by the fireplace, watching his children sleep on the couch. Noah nestled against Maddie's shoulder. He thought about Clara, how she used to sing softly to Maddie before bed, how she had begged him before her last breath. "Don't let work take you away from them, Adrian." He had broken that promise. But maybe, he thought now, it wasn't too late to keep it again. A few months later, Adrian sold one of his companies. The announcement stunned the business world, but he didn't care. He used part of the money to start a foundation, the Maddie and Noah Trust, offering free childcare support for single parents working long hours. He visited the centers personally, holding babies, reading to toddlers, and listening to stories of families who reminded him of his own. And every time someone thanked him, he thought back to that trembling little voice over the phone, the one that had changed everything, because that day wasn't just about a call for help. It was a call to wake up, to see that love, once lost, can still find its way back through the smallest, most fragile hands. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Gracefulness Empathy to help us keep spreading stories that remind the world how fragile and precious love truly is. Before you go, tell us in the comments below, do you believe it's ever too late to make things right with someone you love? Because sometimes one small voice saying, "Daddy, it hurts," is all it takes to heal what's been broken for years.